right, well, I think we are ready to go. If you could just in the chat let us know who's here, name, site that you're at, that would be awesome. And welcome to our SDSU presentation. I'm very excited that you have all decided to join us. I'm just going to do a brief introduction, then I'm going to let our panelists take it away. So first we have Matt Hebert, who is the Director of Student Recruitment and School Relations. I'm sure many of you know Matt. And I'm also going to introduce Esther, who is an admissions counselor at SDSU. And from someone who graduated from San Diego State in 1994, welcome. We're excited that you're here. Proud Aztec, Aztec for life. So I'm going to let you guys take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Tanya. Hi, good morning, everybody. Glad that we're here with you to present on SDSU updates and general CSU updates as well for you and your students. So we'll get right to it. I know there's a lot to talk about and some limited time. So we'll jump right in. Here is our wonderful staff. We are our full-time admission counselors. We also have a dozen student staff who we have answering the phone and guiding you and your students as well. But these are our full-time admission counselors. We have our contact link here at the bottom of the slide, and we'll be sharing this presentation with Tanya so that everybody will have access to it and access to the links that we have on here too. So you can just click on them for more information. But we have our contact down here. We are physically back on campus at SDSU. We have limited office hours this semester where basically on campus, open as a public office from 9 to 11 in the morning, Monday through Friday, and then also from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, Mondays through Thursdays. 11 and 2 every day, and then 11 and 4 on Fridays, or I should say weekdays, 11 to 2. We have a virtual office still, and we have that link a little further into the presentation. But we know that's very convenient. A lot of counselors and students access us virtually through Zoom during the pandemic, of course. So we are maintaining a virtual presence as well as a physical presence to make sure we accommodate as many students as we can. Benefits of the CSU. So talking, CSU General here, what differentiates the CSU from the UC and from other systems? So we do really focus on a hands-on approach, applied sciences and programs, a lot of student support services that we offer between career services, job placement, but also students at our core, also teaching at our core too. Many of us are research universities like San Diego State. So there's a lot of research to be done, a lot of opportunities for students to get their hands dirty early and often doing research, even as early as their first year as an undergraduate, as opposed to waiting till graduate study. But also teaching is our core. So we do really empower our professors to make sure that teaching really comes first, in addition to all the research, but making sure they're there for our students. Also, there are changes, or I should say differences with some of the majors that we offer. We do specialize in teacher education. I know a lot of you are alums from some of our programs. So education, also business administration, programs such as criminal justice, public administration, and then a lot of humanities, professional programs such as theater and film and the arts, also sciences, applied engineering and sciences as well, and health and human services such as nursing, kinesiology, public health. Especially nowadays, public health is a really, really popular major. Of course, this is just a recap for many of you, but location of 23 different California state universities located all throughout the state of California, everywhere from Humboldt on down to us in San Diego. So a lot of different types of campuses, different sizes of campuses for your students to apply to based on what their interest is for geographic region and population. A shout out to what we have going on now in the state of California, since we are mostly virtual for in-person college fairs and visits. The Office of the Chancellor, in association with AICCU and the UCs, are offering virtual college fairs throughout this month of October for you and your students to really have access to, I think there are about 75 different colleges and universities who attend these, including all 23 Cal State universities. You can see on the bottom right there, we have different dates for the different geographic areas of California, but honestly, we're all present at all of these different fairs. We've done 2 of them so far on the 2nd and the 6th of October, and we have students from all over the state who join us. So the link is very simple, cacollegefairs.org. Please share that with your students, with everybody else, and get everybody access to college fairs this semester. This is really our statewide push, since we're not physically in front of our students this year at the various high schools and community colleges around, to make sure that we have access and your students have access to all the CSUs. All of us do 2 half-hour admission presentations. The CSU does a Cal State Apply workshop and a financial aid workshop as part of those hours as well. So the next one is coming up on Saturday here from 1 to 3. That is meant for the central students in the central part of the state, but by all means, you can join in as well. And then for the Southern California region, we have next Saturday from 1 to 3. So I really encourage you to check that out and to share that with your students. Full-time numbers have really stayed a little bit static the last couple of years, but you can see on our chart here the amount of units that students are taking. So our full-time equivalent students has actually risen. We had a surprising number of graduate students actually accept the offer of admission this year. So there are more students interested in going back to school and really doing more degree completion. So we have seen that ticked up. We are looking at almost 500,000 students within our system. So the largest system of 4-year education still in the United States. So very proud of that fact. So close to 500,000 students enrolled, and of those, about 425,000 or so who are full-time students. Some numbers for you. You can actually see for our freshman admissions, we are ticking lower for the amount of applications that we see in the system. So it's very interesting in the last 3 to 4 years that we've really ticked below what we had as our peak back in 2018. And some of that is just the leveling out of students in the high schools, but we are seeing a slight decrease in the amount of students who are applying just to one campus in our system. So what we call unduplicated enrollment, in Office of Admission there on the right-hand side in these columns. But we are seeing a pretty steady yield amount for the amount of students who are enrolling at the CSU, and consequently a ticking up of the admit rate. So our goal in the CSU is to really find a place for every student who is CSU eligible. And we'll talk about redirection in just a second, but that's one of our goals, is to make sure that if students are applying to the CSU, they can get admitted to at least one of our campuses in the system. And Cal State Apply is your main resource. It's the main website for all of our students to apply and to find information about all the different CSUs, demographics about the campuses, what programs we have all to students to enter into, and then indeed to really do one application for all the different CSUs that we have out there. This is a very good link for everybody. This is actually our test account for Cal State Apply for the application. So when students are contacting us and they're saying, I'm having a problem entering such and such of a course, this is the website that we go on to so that we have access to really the test account, where it doesn't collect our information. It's not a real account, but it is a completely duplicated Cal State Apply account, so that you can have this link and just go in and play around with it. It won't save your information as an applicant or anything like that for the data. but you will actually be able to go in and see and duplicate what students are entering in as well. Now we have some slight changes here regarding the application deadline for fall. We have 8 campuses, really our most impacted campuses in the system, that are sticking to November 30th, as we've really had for as long as I can remember, at least, and I've been here in admissions for now 21 years. November 30th has always been our deadline to apply. We do, however, have 15 other campuses that are wanting to stay open a little bit longer to collect more applicants. So you can see on this list, again, this will be shared with you, but what we have for our 8 campuses, including SDSU, that will close on November 30th, and the others that will extend their deadline and be open just a little bit longer. Whoops. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Esther for a few slides to talk about impaction and admission requirements.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, everyone. My name is Esther. I'm an admissions counselor for San Diego State University. Pronouns are she, her, yeah. So when we talk about impaction at the CSU level, it basically means that a university receives more applications than there are spaces available. So whether some universities might be impacted with certain majors only, like for instance, nursing or computer science is pretty impacted across the board in other CSUs. Some majors might be, or some universities might be impacted overall. So like for instance, universities like us, like San Diego State University, we are impacted across all of our majors, including undeclared as an option. So what this means is that even though we get a lot of applicants who are A through G eligible, CSU eligible, unfortunately, not that alone isn't going to be enough to gain admissions because it becomes a competitive applicant pool. So in the next slide, it gives you an example of I'm not sure if you included this, Matt, in the slides, about the different, okay, going back. In the Cast and Apply website, it does have some examples of different CSUs that might be impacted only at a certain level, or CSUs that are not impacted at all. But the CSUs that I can think of at the top of my head that are impacted would be San Diego State University, Cal State Long Beach, San Jose State, Cal Poly SLO, just to name a few. So as far as our criteria goes, we are looking at that students are on track to complete their A through G courses by the end of their senior year. And one of the things that will really make them stand out for a lot of CSUs is going above and beyond the minimum A through G criteria. So having 3 or 4 years of social science instead of just 2, having that 4th year of quantitative reasoning or math instead of just 3. That 4th year of quantitative reasoning is really going to help the students prepare themselves for college level math class. No matter what their major is, every single first year student is going to be required to take math at the university level. So for instance, right now I'm teaching a first year general studies class to first year students who are all business majors. And 2 of them one of the things that we talk about is academic preparation and academic strategies. And 2 of them shared that, I'm glad I took a statistics class in my senior year. Otherwise, I would be so lost in my statistics class right now as a business major. So it really does benefit them it does benefit students a lot in regards to academic preparation once they're in college to take that 4th year of a quantitative reasoning or math class, and specifically in their senior year. And if it could be an advanced math class, that's even better, but really just any math class so they don't forget those skills. Next is 2 years of one of the hard sciences, of the laboratory sciences. So really going above and beyond the minimum for that as well. For STEM majors, I know a lot of times, a lot of campuses with nursing majors as well, we're going to look at the grades and how many math and science courses students have taken if they are interested in applying as nursing or STEM majors. Finally, we're going to look at their GPA in all their A through G courses starting from 10th grade. And we do weight the GPA up to 8 points. And we will consider community college classes that fall under the A through G category as part of that high school A through G GPA. In the next slide, you'll be able to see the different deadlines for all. Is it this one?
Yeah, let me jump in here.
Go ahead, Matt.
So on this slide here, we're really showcasing what the minimum eligibility requirements are. So there are going to be, let's see, the majority of CSU campuses that really are just going to look at A through G completion, looking at, excuse me, ensuring that students are a high school graduate, and then having a qualifying GPA. And what is that qualifying GPA? Well, we're no longer using SAT or ACT exam scores, at least for this year. We didn't last year. We're not for fall of 22. We do not have guidance as far as 2023. That decision is going to be forthcoming from the Office of the Chancellor and will be the same across the board for all the CSUs, but we just don't have information yet if we're going to reuse now the SAT or ACTs for next year. I think probably not, since we've gone to this system here. And so what is really the reality of not using SATs and no longer using an eligibility index is to make sure that our students who are entering the CSU have a qualifying GPA. For most CSUs, that's just a 2.5 GPA or higher. So the reality is a student with a 2.5 A through G GPA, completing all their A through G through their senior year, and ensuring that they graduate from high school, that may be enough to get them admitted to the specific campus. But we have a handful of campuses, including San Diego State, that are impacted across the board and will have higher GPAs that we'll implement, as well as some supplemental criteria. You can see there are three kind of categories here. Students with a 2.5 or higher are considered CSU eligible. Between a 2.0 and a 2.49, the Office of the Chancellor says that's a campus decision. You can use some other factors if you still want to admit a student who's still within passing range, but beneath that 2.5 kind of minimum cutoff, to just use a GPA. And then students who are not CSU eligible at all, having beneath the 2.0. So then the fine print, campuses may use supplemental or multi-factor criteria to replace the SAT and ACT. And these are some of the examples, Esther, if you could go over some of these, of the additional type of things that now the campuses may look for in addition to just the GPA.
Yes, definitely. So as Matt was saying, before it was very easy or very linear to calculate the formula using the eligibility index with test scores and GPA. But now what, the items that most factors are going to, or more, the factors that most campuses are going to be considering is, of course, A through G GPA. I know for San Diego State, for a lot of CSUs, that's going to be the heaviest, the criteria is going to hold the most weight. And the other item is A through G courses above the 30 semester, like the 15 A through G courses that they have to take, as I was mentioning earlier. If they are part of a promise or partnership program, so if there's an MOU that the school that your school district or a school has with a CSU, then that's other items that are also going to be taken into consideration. We'll also be looking at prioritizing first generation and economically disadvantaged students, so and underrepresented students. So in the application, there's going to be a section where they're going to be able to indicate if they were part of educational programs or not, if they were involved in like programs like Upward Bound, like CalSO, Puente, things like that. The other item we're going to consider is foster youth services. So there is a question on there where we ask students, were you ever in the foster care system? Were you ever identified as a student who had home insecurity or, anything like that? And, that'll identify them as current or former foster youth, and that'll give them priority consideration for the universities, but also if admitted into a university, it'll also get us on the radar to provide them resources through our Guardian Scholars Program under EOP. And military as well. I know some campuses are looking that usually don't admit students in the fall. Sometimes, we're looking at students who maybe have some military service or military statuses, if they're like veterans or continuing students. Other factors that we're going to look at for campus specific is the math and quantitative reasoning GPA in their A through G courses. Work experience. I know that this might be a little bit difficult right now, especially with the pandemic. A lot of people weren't working in general, but including students as well. So we also add, there's an area for us students, with the extracurricular activities. And for work experience, I recommend students to also consider any type of experience, any type of professional experience that they've gained in the last, let's say 18 months, that they can input their average hours. When we ask them about their extracurricular activities, we're also going to ask them, on average, how many hours they contributed per month or per week. And we're going to ask them if they had any leadership positions in these areas as well. So were they presidents, were they team captains and things like that. On the application, we also ask them if they're interested in being considered for the California Promise. And that's going to also be considered for some of the campuses. And some campuses may also look at the English GPA and their GPA and their lab courses as well. So again, that A through G and college prep course, it's going to be considered in many different ways, as well as cumulative A through G GPA, going above and beyond the minimum A through G, and looking at the GPA in their math preparation, in their English preparation, and in their laboratory science preparation classes as well.
And so this is really what the benchmark kind of extra things that the CSU itself are looking at. For SDSU, we have another slide a little bit later on that picks out some of these other areas where we talk about just preparation for the academic program. So for SDSU this year, I would stress that the most important things are preparation for, especially for STEM major students who are interested in engineering or the sciences, to make sure they have above and beyond just their bare bones minimum GPA, A through G, in those particular areas for math or for sciences. So, the math A through G is just proficiency through Algebra 2. For any student that is entering our College of Engineering, they eventually have to take Calculus 1, 2, and 3 here, ideally by the end of their second year. So we are giving weight, so to speak, to students who have above and beyond Algebra 2, and also having let's just say at more advanced coursework, advanced math in that discipline, or pre-calculus, calculus. But admission with a camp, since we're a campus that have all majors impacted, admission can vary from major to major, program to program. One thing I do want to point out is we still have local admissions priority. So roughly about 40 to 45% of our incoming freshmen will be from our local area. And that's important to note. It is a articulated thing here that we campuses do have a localness type of priority. And how we do that is by looking at not an eligibility index any longer, but looking at overall percentages in population so that we can accommodate students in our local area too. So that is a factor and a consideration when we're making admission decisions. So to recap, really, we're looking at, of course, A through G completion, GPA numbers, although the bar is set very low for the CSU at a 2.5. We will look at much higher than that as an impacted campus. And then combining that for just some preferences, localness for students in the local area, also preparation for the major, what they have in addition for A through G courses above and beyond the minimums. There is a large stress here in the CSU system for students to have and continue throughout their senior year in mathematics. Of course, students need to have 4 years of English as an A through G minimum, so they're taking English in their senior year. By chance, if they had completed that already by junior year, by doubling up or what have you, we still do recommend taking English in the senior year just to have that bridge so students aren't losing valuable writing skills. Mathematics is really key and kind of the biggest push to make sure students have a year-long senior level math course and are not taking a break, so to speak, from math. All the CSUs a freshman requirement for college level mathematics, college algebra or above. As I mentioned, a lot of our majors do have calculus as a prerequisite for major prep, and we see that is really a stumbling block for a lot of students coming into the university. So we want to make sure students have enough math skills here. Good link on here for CSU Student Success for more details. Excuse me. Although we're not using SAT or ACTs for any kind of admissions benefit. So if they list it on the application, that's great. It's not going to hurt them, not going to help them at all, but we can use that just for placement purposes, making sure that students are in the correct English and math classes and aren't going to have to do any stepping stone type of classes, their first semester in English or mathematics. Another thing that's being talked about too is AB 104, which basically states that during the pandemic, the CSUs could take in just credit or pass to fulfill A through G requirements. We actually already in the CSU have a process set up for that during COVID. Starting now in this semester for fall of 21, our expectation is that students actually do have letter grades, C- or higher in all the A through G in order to count for A through G. But I know that we will have students who are going to petition in the future years. I think it's up till 2023 it's now approved for, where they may petition and say, back in 2020, I had my parents had a COVID situation. I wasn't able to get a good grade on this class. Can we change it to credit and pass? And so really with very few questions asked, we will take those in and give the student the benefit of the doubt. We do assume that the pass credit is equal to at least C- or higher. And the challenge, I think, for us on the admissions side is that these credit or pass classes don't count in the GPA at all. Yes, we give the student clearance that they've met the A through G for that category, but it's not computed in the GPA. So if a student had a very good grade in this class that for whatever reason they now want to change to credit or pass, they're not going to get the benefit of that GPA. And redirection, as I previously mentioned, for any qualifying CSU student. So again, these are students with a 2.5 GPA or higher, completing A through G and graduating from high school. If they are not admitted to any of the CSUs to which they apply, we will automatically redirect their application to a campus in the spring or late winter that is still accepting applications. Usually there are a handful of campuses such as Sonoma, Channel Islands, sometimes Dominguez Hills, Stanislaus, that will still be open late winter, early spring, and at least to make sure that students have a place in the CSU and that students can go to a four-year university. These again are for students who are not admitted to any of the CSUs to which they apply. If they only apply to San Diego State and they're not admitted to SDSU, well, that's the only CSU they apply to. They're not admitted to the CSU. We will then redirect those students to a campus that's still taking those applications at that time. To be determined exactly what those campuses are. This also applies to our transfer students and especially for our associate degree for transfer students. All right, so SDSU specific stuff. I know things are kind of blended in. When we talk about the CSU in general, I really want to stress that there are 15 campuses that really are not so impacted that students with very average GPA numbers are going to be able to gain access. At SDSU, at Long Beach, at Cal Poly, really the usual suspects. We've seen still very competitive applicant pools, roughly 65,000 or so freshman applications, another 25 to 30,000 transfer applications. So really approaching the $100,000 application mark for the applications, which makes it much more competitive. So the GPAs we look at are going to be variable on our campus as well as what you encounter at Long Beach, Cal Poly, etc. I do encourage you to check out those campuses since we no longer use an eligibility index to see really the details of these special things that they may be looking at. And we'll get into some SDSU specific in just a moment here. First, on our population, roughly 34,500 students enrolled this semester, 30,000 of whom are undergraduate, another 4,000. So this number has really remained pretty steady over the last number of years, with roughly 34 to 35,000 students here on our campus. We are mostly fully on campus this semester. We have about 85% of our courses that are physically here on campus, another 15% that are hybrid or just online for this semester due to the pandemic. Moving forward, we have that expectation for the spring as well. And then if all goes well for next year, back to basically fully on campus. A lot of resources for students. I mentioned in the very beginning, undergraduate research, opportunities for student success, career services. Just, we are, if you haven't been to campus in the last few years, come back and join us, and we'll go over a lot of this information. You can see still the bustling metropolis that is SDSU and everything that we can offer our students as a large CSU. Be remiss to not mention athletics and the currently ranked number 25 Aztecs playing football, playing New Mexico this weekend. Gonna wipe the floor with them. And so athletics, it's just really nice to be back on campus and walk around and see our students wearing our gear, being really excited about football games and athletics, and looking forward to basketball season and a lot of our athletic programs that are doing so well. So great to be back here and full of this atmosphere here on campus. We also have a list of all of our different academic colleges and all the majors that we're going to share with you on this presentation. We have 7 academic colleges. All of the majors are impacted. So as you're guiding your students as far as what is the best major to apply for, we really have limited data that we can show that suggests one major is much more of an advantage over others. We have 7 academic colleges, not including in the middle block here, undeclared as a category. All of our majors are impacted for admission's sake. We use that word impacted at the department level too, because sometimes we have GPA cutoffs that students will need to meet as they progress through the major to make sure they have at least a B average in, say, their business courses or what have you. But on the admission side, we talk about impaction for access purposes, and all the majors are impacted, meaning that in admissions, it could be variable. One year, it could be based on the applicant pool, the amount of students who are applying, their caliber, but also how many spaces we have, and that's determined in the spring. It could be harder or easier to get in as undeclared versus business. So it's very difficult to guide students under kind of the banner of it's going to be easier to get in for this or that. We always look at choosing a major as what degree, what profession are you interested in at the end of the day, what career are you interested in? That should really guide the student's decision. We do have some majors that have a little bit extra. We'll talk about that in just a second. But whether it's business, whether it's philosophy, whether it's undeclared, whether it's mechanical engineering, they're all impacted. What we can tell you for preparation purposes, again, no longer using the SATs, is that it's an advantage for students to be more prepared with their A through G courses that align with what their degree is going to be. So for instance, STEM majors, sciences, nursing, health and human services, college engineering majors, always good to have more science, more math courses. And then we are going to be looking at, as part of our review, how they've done in those courses as well. A C in calculus is not going to cut it. For biology majors, a C in biology is not going to cut it. So we want to see that students are successful in these preparation courses as well, that would lead them to their degree. And all of this too is wrapped around the CSU Graduation Initiative 2025. What is going to be released probably in the next couple weeks is that we, for the first time, well, I should say we've broken this barrier before, but we have the highest four-year graduation rate that we've ever had. I believe the new rate is going to be something like 56%. And for years, we were hovering in that 40s region. So that's a big deal for us. The six-year graduation rate is in the 80%. So as a CSU with some programs that aim for, 5-year programs, what have you, that's really a big thing for us. So it's kind of a degree completion mindset too, to make sure students are prepared so that they're not going to have to take an extra year or two taking pre-calculus as a engineering student to then just get into Calculus 1. Very important dates, as I mentioned, October 1 through November 30th for Cal State Apply. We're one of those campuses that will definitely close on November 30th. See this website, sdsu.edu/preview day, because on Saturday, November 6th, so a month from tomorrow, we will actually have all of our academic colleges and our deans presenting in different Zoom sessions some information about their different majors and the departments in their college. We also will have a Cal State Apply workshop. We'll have some presenters from the Weber Honors College. We have a lot of stuff that will go on that day. So save the date, check out our website for more information. There'll be Zoom links on there so that you and your students can get more information about the actual programs that we have. March is when we make most of our admission decisions. In the spring, we have an open house. And then May 1st is our statewide commit deadline. And as I mentioned, and just to recap very briefly, A through G courses, these are just the bare bones minimums. And then first year admission criteria for SDSU. We do review information based on just what students are entering, so they must be accurate on the application. We don't ask for transcripts ahead of time, complete or be on track to complete A through G. We do give weighted credit to students with AP or honors classes, looking at preparation towards their indicated area of study as an extra factor, and then maintaining overall grade point average. Students cannot have D or Fs in the senior year, or else we do withdraw the offer of admission. Very, very briefly, transfer admission. We could do another hour on just transferring that process. But keep in mind, we do have roughly about 85% of our new transfer students who come from our local area community colleges. So we do have pathways available for any student who wishes to go that route. They have to do 2 years there first, so a 60 transferable unit number, but then a clear pathway into San Diego State that way. So that's always an option for students too. Our cost for tuition for 2 semesters, so 2 semesters in the full academic year. So per year, we're looking at $8,136 for this year. Students from our local area are not required to live on campus. However, we do recommend it. And for students who choose to live on campus or students from outside of our local area, we do actually have a 2-year live-on requirement. When we are looking at financial aid, those, the FAFSA available now, we're actually going through a conversion with some of our student information systems, moving from a homegrown system to PeopleSoft. And we're currently converting our financial aid records. So for the next couple months, even if students apply right now for the FAFSA, students are going to have to wait until January to check their records with SDSU. So in the new year, we'll be up and running with our new system. But students can always check the FAFSA website just to make sure that their documents have gone through and that they've actually applied. And then we do have scholarships available for students, of course. Once students are committing to SDSU in the spring, there are, I think, 700 different scholarships that we have available for students to help pay for their education. As I mentioned, for housing, 2-year requirement to live on for students from outside of our area, or for students who are interested in our Weber Honors College. And as a benefit for housing, we have a lot of living learning communities, so students can indicate on their housing documents if they're interested in, say, our Pride House or a pre-law community or a business community, so we can group students together in the same living area. I know I'm going super quick now and just kind of flying through because I know we're getting short on time. But any questions whatsoever that you have, please ask them in the chat and we can cover questions too. But that concludes our presentation on SDSU and the CSU. Again, Tanya will share this presentation with you with those different links on there for you. And excuse me, here's my email address and direct phone number. So please feel free to give me a call anytime, and I can answer your questions one-on-one if you'd like to, or shoot me an email. Our regular admissions email address, and if you have international students, we do have a special email address for that as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Matt. And if you have questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. But in the meantime, I know that, Matt, you have some swag giveaways.
So we have some bundles of freebies that we're ready to give away and send to you. So first up is we have an SDSU shirt. We also have an SDSU scarf. You can see this through the camera. And then we have a water bottle. So we have these 3 items that we'll be sending to the lucky winners of a raffle.
All right. So we have 4 prizes, 4 bundles. And so, Zarette, can you go ahead and give us randomly 4 names from our panelist list?
Okay. So from our attendings today, we have Lalaine Torres. Congratulations.
And
Our
if,
next winner will be, go ahead.
if you could go ahead and put your email address into the chat or directly message to Zarette Lara, we will come back to you to get your address, your mailing address.
Sarah, is that are those birds in your background? They sound so pretty.
Yes, I'm so sorry. It's one.
Oh, it's cute. I feel like you're Snow White
Thank you.
in the middle of the forest.
Yes, heading to SDSU. Our second winner is Arturo Balse. Congratulations. And our third winner is, drum roll please, Christy Flint. Congratulations, everyone.
I think we have 4, right, Matt?
Yeah, we have one more.
We have one more. Let me scroll really quick. And we have Adriana Chitirulu. And sorry for the pronunciation. Adriana Chitirulu. Congratulations, everyone.
Yay!
And in addition to those raffle items, for everybody, we have SDSU pennants. So if you need a pennant in your office, in your school, please just send your email address as well, and we will mail out a pennant to you. So we do have a bunch of the SDSU pennants. We want to show our pride and have our banner up in your school, in your office. So we have a number of these for you. So let us know and we can make sure you get a pennant as well.
All right, and I'm putting Matt's email address into the chat. So please, again, if you need an SDSU pennant, please email him and they will mail that out to you. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending and getting up to date on SDSU. Thank you, Matt and Esther, for being here today. And again, everything will be posted along with this recording and slide deck onto the SDCOE School Counselor webpage next week. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And just to circle back about in the chat, Esther put in our counselor hotline, as well as that Cal State Applied testing link. Please don't share those with your students. That is for you only. We don't want to get into a situation where a student used the test application thinking that they actually applied, but they didn't. So that's very important for us. And then that counselor hotline, sometimes our phone numbers, our phone line gets really super busy when we get closer to the deadline. That will get you right through to us so we can service you pretty quickly. But please don't share that with your students.
All right. Well, thank you
so much, everyone.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
And then Zarette, I'll have a transcript of this with all of the, did you get all the email addresses you needed?
I have Arturo's email address if you need it. He's a Seawater District Counselor.
Wonderful. So I'll take that.
Let me pull it up real quick. Arturo Valse. I think he's